What are the 10 most common retirement questions? Well, as we continue our series looking at that, today we'll be looking at the third most frequent question, which is when should I begin taking my monthly Social Security benefits? And here to talk with us about that is Dana Anspach from Sensible Money. Dana, welcome.
Thanks, Bob.
So, this is one of the more common questions you get.
It is, and I would say today, more and more people have read that there could be a benefit to delaying the start of their Social Security benefits, whereas perhaps 15 years ago, it seemed the default choice was take it as soon as possible. So the good news is we see more and more people considering other options and wanting to explore it. And so, yes, it is a more common question, and people seem a little more open-minded about exploring why they might want to delay the start of their benefits.
Right. And do you view it differently for single individuals versus married couples?
Absolutely. There's a paper that was written in 2012. The National Bureau of Economic Research actually, there's been many papers, as you know, on this topic, but it's one that I have quoted in many of my materials. And it talks about the benefits of delaying are greater for some groups versus other. So when you look at a married couple, there can be benefit to at least the highest earner, the one that's going to have the maximum benefit at age 70 delaying. And that is due to the way survivor benefits work. So you're a married couple, and let's say you're both in your late 70s and one passes away. Whoever has the highest Social Security benefit, that benefit continues for the surviving spouse, and the lower benefit drops off. And so you always want to maximize that survivor benefit that can provide for a spouse who may be longer lived than you.
Mm.
So that was one group, marrieds versus singles. When you looked at singles, women have slightly longer life expectancies, so the benefits of women delaying the start date of their Social Security can be greater for men. And then across all groups, there's research that showed that the benefits of delaying were better during low interest rate periods, and some of those benefits may not be as strong as you start to enter higher interest rate periods.
Right. So a lot of folks are worried that if they delay taking Social Security, they need to make up the income that they would have received from, say, I don't know, age 62 or full retirement age to age 70. There's been talk about this thing called bridging strategies. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so a bridging strategy is basically where you are withdrawing money from your own savings and investments, often from tax-deferred IRA accounts or 401k accounts, to pay yourself what Social Security would have paid you. So let's say you retire at 66 and you start taking a monthly paycheck from your IRA account, and at the same time you are delaying the start of your Social Security to age 70. And we have run numerous cases, and now there is significant research out there that shows that in many cases, actually I would say in the majority of cases, delaying the start of Social Security can make your other savings and investments last longer. And it's counterintuitive unless you're a mathematician, which most of us are not. So, and it's also scary. So the thought that we're spending down our own personal savings and investments more rapidly for many feels a little bit like terror. Oh my gosh, I don't want to watch that balance go down. So it can be counterintuitive to understand how that could actually help your money last longer. What we try to emphasize when we're talking with clients is there's this perception that if I'm delaying Social Security, I'm putting off my cash flow or putting off some of the things that I want to do in early retirement while we're in those go-go years. And what we're saying is no, a bridging strategy means you're having the same amount of cash flow. You're just taking it from a different source. We're taking it from your IRA right now. Later, when you claim Social Security and get a larger amount, that means you'll have to withdraw much less from your remaining savings and investments. And cumulatively, over a 25 or 30-year lifespan, that is what can help your money last longer.
Right. So we talked about the benefits of delaying to age 70 to get the maximum possible Social Security benefit. Are there times when it might make sense for someone to claim at an earlier age, 62, or through FRA, full retirement age?
Certainly, someone that has significant health issues, So perhaps you have a much shorter than average life expectancy. That would be a situation where you might consider claiming early. If you are a couple and it is your other half that has the highest benefit at age 70, sometimes there's a strategy where the spouse with a lower benefit claims early and the spouse with a larger benefit waits until 70. And of course, there's a situation where you don't have a choice. You really have no other source of income, and there are people who must claim early simply because there are no alternatives. Now, one situation that I encourage people to watch out for is, let's say you're 62 and you lost your job and you are still going to look for work or find employment of some kind. Some people will claim Social Security thinking that they can later stop or pause it, and that's not the case. And so if you claim early before what's called your full retirement age, and then you keep working or you find another job and you earn in excess of the earnings limit, Social Security will actually hold back a part of your benefit. Now, there will be a recalculation later where it gets added back to you, but over a long period of time, over 12 or 13 years. So what happens is some people claim at 62 and they think, great, now I've got my Social Security, and when I find that new job, I'll have both. And that's not the case. And so it's important for people to know that that's not necessarily the way it works.
Yeah. So there are two unique instances. If you were to claim and then withdraw within 12 months of claiming, there's an opportunity to stop it there. Is that correct?
You would actually have to pay back the benefits that you received. And for many households, that's not going to be feasible. So most of the time, if you claimed early, it's because you needed the cash flow and you've consumed that money. But if you did claim early and realize that wasn't the wisest financial move to make, and you're within 12 months, there is that option to pay back those benefits and reset the clock. And then later you can start at a later age.
Right. And then another unique circumstance is after full retirement age, you are able to suspend your benefit and restart it at a later point.
After full retirement age, I believe so. Yes, you can suspend your benefits. And we have had some cases, we run it through software. And so we've had some cases where the software came back and said, yes, this person should suspend their benefits. Most of the time, that was because they were the higher earner. And by suspending their benefits and then restarting them at age 70, those benefits would accumulate. They're called delayed retirement credits. So they would get this larger amount later, and it then maximized the survivor benefit. So it maximized the amount of cash flow the household would get viewed over their joint lifetimes. Now, I will tell you, having run those cases through software and presented it to the client, and here's this opportunity, most people are very reluctant to pause their benefits once they have begun. We did have one person who was more engineer minded, who got the math and understood and said, yeah, I think I'll do that. But people can be reluctant to do that once those paychecks are coming in.
Yeah. So there's a lot to consider when thinking about when to take your Social Security benefit. We've covered a lot of ground. Anything we missed?
The only thing that crosses my mind is if you are someone who has read some of the research that delaying the start of your benefits is better at lower interest rates, you may be wondering what's happening now that interest rates are rising. And it's important to understand that low interest rates is relative. The work really refers to what are called real interest rates. So what amount of interest could you expect to earn in an equivalent risk category investment? So Social Security is considered a very safe, secure investment. And so if you're looking at treasury bills, something very safe and secure, could you earn about 3.5% to 4% more than inflation? That's what a real interest rate means. It means in excess of inflation. And so even though we are starting to see interest rates rise, we're also seeing, well, the reason we're seeing interest rates rise is because of inflation. And so those real interest rates still aren't at that point where that would change that part of the equation.